Hey everybody, welcome back to my coverage of the PogChamps 3 tournament. This is the Rain Wilson versus Logic match, Group C. We are in the Game 3 Armageddon game. So the Armageddon game format, if the players are tied 1-1 at the end of 2 games, we go to a third tiebreaker Armageddon game, which will be decisive. It will have a winner no matter what. But how do you do that? Because there are draws in chess. So the Armageddon game is basically if black wins or draws, then black will be declared the winner. So black has drawing odds. But to make this a little more fair to white, white will get some extra time, and also they have that first move advantage that white gets in every single chess game. So both the players have 5 minutes on their clock right now, but Logic's clock will update to 4 minutes after the first move. And this game is played with no increment. So the normal games are played at a 10-5 control. That means both players start with 10 minutes and gain 5 seconds after every single move. However, this is a 5-0 game, so the players get 5 minutes and that's it. Rain did get to choose which color he would like to play since he played more accurately according to the chess.com accuracy calculator. He played more accurately in the first 2 games, so he got to choose the color, and he chose white. So Rain Wilson has the white pieces in this game, and let's see how it went. We have e4 and e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop b5, the Ruy Lopez. Rain Wilson has played this, I think, most games that he's been white. We have bishop c5 from Bobby. This is following their first game where Rain was white, and now castles from Rain. And here in the first game, Logic played a6, which was a mistake. And this game he deviates with d6, which is definitely a big improvement. We have c3 and now bishop g4 from Logic. And this is actually a mistake because it allows Rain to play this move d4. And basically the idea with this is first you gain a tempo on this bishop, so black can trade here first, but now when the bishop moves, you play d5 and you're attacking this pinned knight. So here, if we go back a couple moves, you actually have a very limited number of moves you can do here as black to avoid this tactic. You can break the pin with bishop d7, for example. You can kick the bishop with a move like a6, or you could back up your bishop with bishop b6. And these are really some of black's only good moves here. But we have bishop g4 from Logic instead, and will Rain go for this d4 move? No, he does not. We have h3 instead. So here Logic needs to take this knight to avoid this d4 tactic, because if he backs up with the bishop, the d4 tactic will be available to Rain once again. Instead, we have bishop h5, and so now Rain has this d4 tactic. Will he go for it this time? No, he does not. He simply plays g4, and after bishop g6 and rook e1, now defending this pawn, we have knight f6 from Logic. And this d4 tactic is actually still available to Rain. However, it's not as strong anymore because black will be able to get some counterplay with it, since this e4 pawn is a little loose for white. So for example, if we had d4 now, we could see something, we could see something like bishop b6 and now d5, but now a6, so you're attacking this bishop. White has to back it up first, bishop a4, and now knight takes e4. You don't want anything to happen on f7, so before taking this knight, you have to defend with bishop e3, and here black can trade. Bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, and now black can play b5, breaking the pin and counterattacking your bishop. So it looks like black will save all of their material here, but then white plays this move, bishop c2, and now the knight is attacked twice. So black has 2 hanging pieces. They won't be able to save both of them. However, black can do this desperado tactic with knight takes f2, and after king takes f2, bishop takes c2, queen takes c2, and knight e7. White will still be up a piece, but black has gained 2 pawns for it and exposed white's king. So, in conclusion, yes, this d4 tactic is still available to Rain, but it's less strong now. But it is still the best move. So will we see it from Rain? No, we do not. Instead, we see d3. Once again, if you miss a tactic twice, you're probably not going to see it the third time it's available to you. So that's just the way things go. Now we have a6 from Logic, and now that this bishop is attacked, this d4 tactic is no longer going to be available. We have bishop takes c6 check, now doubling black's pawns, and this is totally fine. You can take or you can back up. Either move is fine. We have b takes c6 and bishop g5 now from Rain. We have h6 and now bishop back to e3. And here is Rain. You really just got to go bishop h4. When you bring this bishop to g5, you're basically saying, if you play h6, I'm going to play bishop to h4. because when you play bishop e3, you're basically giving black this h6 move for free. Like you might as well have just moved your bishop to e3 in the first place. So a little positional inaccuracy there from Rain, lost a tempo, but it's all fine. And here as black, you definitely need to do something about this because white is threatening to take this bishop, and this will give you triple isolated pawns. Not only that, but you will also lose this e-pawn since this d-pawn is currently overworked. So will we see black do something like takes or bishop b6, for example? Instead, we don't have either of those moves. We have castles from logic, and now this allows Rain to definitely take advantage of this positional blunder, this really a huge positional blunder with bishop takes c5. And he does go for it. After d takes c5, we now have these triple isolated pawns, and this is just a huge weakness, one of the biggest positional weaknesses. You're probably going to lose at definitely one, probably two, maybe all three of these pawns later in the game. So yeah, you do not want triple isolated pawns. Not only that, but it also immediately loses the e5 pawn, which Rain goes ahead and picks up. Now we have queen d6, and this walks into another tactic, which is knight takes g6. And after f takes g6, now white has this e5 pawn fork. So Rain could have gone for this, but did he see it? No, he did not. He instead simply defends his knight with f4, and now you got to be careful as white because you've pushed all of your pawns in front of your king, so things could get bad for you really quickly. You are up a pawn, and black has this huge positional weakness, but you just got to be careful because your king is not very safe. We have h5 now from Bobby, just trying to rip open what's left of white's king safety, and knight a3 from Rain. This is a really smart maneuver, just looking to bring the knight to c4. So definitely a great move, knight a3 here from Rain. And this also takes advantage that this c4 is actually an outpost because no black pawns can attack it. And it's kind of funny because there are 3 pawns on the c file. It also will gain a tempo on this queen and also support this e5 knight. So really great move here by Rain. We have rook a to e8, and yeah, we saw Bobby do this in one of his previous games where he moved the a rook instead of the f rook. I think the f rook definitely would have been a better rook to put on e8, and then you could put the a rook on the d file potentially, or even the b file. So yeah, just a small positional thing there, but rook a e8 is okay as well. Rain continues with his plan, knight a to c4, and we have queen to e6. This walks into yet another tactic. So here you just needed to play queen to d8, because after queen to e6, we now have f5, which is a pawn fork on the queen and the bishop. And Rain does go for this. He plays f5. We have bishop takes f5, so now Bobby just trying to get as much material as he can for this piece. G takes f5 and queen to e7, and you're actually going to lose another pawn here because this queen is attacked and it's the only thing defending the c pawn, and the queen cannot stay connected to the c pawn. So after queen to e7, we have knight takes c6 from Rain. The queen is attacked again, queen d7, and now knight back to e5. Once again attacking the queen. We have queen e7 and d4 from Rain. We have g6 looking to open the g file. This will expose Logic's own king. However, he needs the counterplay because he is down a piece and a couple pawns. So he's just looking for any counterplay that he can possibly get, and he's looking to get that rook on that g file. But first he needs to open it up. Here we have queen f3 from Rain, and just activating the queen, getting it onto a more active square. However, I do want to take a look at this other move that Rain had available to him, which was f takes g6. And now after f takes g6, you have this knight fork on g6 on the queen and the rook. And here as black, you can actually play queen g7, and this saves the fork because it pins the knight to the queen, so the knight cannot take the rook. However, now white has this defensive resource of rook to e2, and now you can't take this knight as black because your queen will be pinned to your queen. Except you actually can, because after queen takes g6 check and rook g2, now you can block with the knight g4. However, this does give back the piece, so white would obviously take this with h takes g4, and if we had something like queen takes e4, we could have g takes h5 check, and after a move like king to h8, it looks really bad for white. It looks like things could get really bad for white here. But now white can play queen to g4, and this threatens checkmate and forces the queen trade, essentially. There's no check on e3 because of the knight covers. So this would force the queen trade, queen takes g4, and rook takes g4, and white would go into a totally winning endgame. The fact that there are no pieces around the king is less of a concern now that the queens are off the board and black only has 2 rooks left. So yes, this would be a totally winning endgame for white. And yeah, this definitely was a possibility that white could have played instead of this queen to f3 move. However, queen to f3, definitely a totally fine move as well. Very good move from Rain, and it works as well. I just thought this f takes g6 line was interesting. So we have king h8 from Bobby, just getting his king off the g file so he can bring his rook there, and rook a to d1 from Rain. We have rook g8 now, bringing that rook to the g file, and knight e3 from Rain. G takes f5 check. So yeah, you probably should have gotten your king off of this h file, like king to h1 on this previous move instead of knight to e3. However, we have knight to e3, and this allows this discovered check with g takes f5. We have king f2, king f2, and king f2 is definitely a mistake because it allows this knight takes e4 move with check. So moving your king to, say, h1 definitely would have been the better call here. But yeah, king to h1 definitely would have been better. However, we have king to f2 instead, and now this allows this knight takes e4 move. Will Bobby go for it? No, we have rook g7 instead, so yeah, he definitely should have gone for this. This is just a free pawn. You're kind of exposing white's king even more and also gaining a tempo on white's king. So definitely should have gone for this. However, he simply moves his rook up. He's looking to double up. That's the reasoning behind this move, which I guess is a good plan. I mean, black is losing here anyway, so there's not a lot you can try. But anyway, the game continues. We have knight takes f5, and this is another reason why this rook g7 move was bad, because yeah, this is now a fork on the queen and the rook, and there's nothing that black can do here. So now we have knight takes e4 from logic. I don't know if this was a bit of time pressure, but this was one move too late. So this just simply hangs a knight. We have queen takes e4, and here I think logic gave up because he played rook g2 check, and I think this is just him kind of accepting defeat. We have king takes g2, and now rook g8 check, king back to f3, and queen g5, and now Rain finishes off the game with, he could have actually immediately played knight takes f7. This would be a fork on the king and the queen. However, instead he played rook g1, and this kills any counterplay that black could have had along this g file. It gets rid of any possible checks, and also the rooks are going to come off next, and white will just be up way too much material. We have queen h6, and this actually hangs the queen immediately, but Rain doesn't take it. Instead, he plays knight takes f7 check, which is a fork on the king and the queen. So after king h7, white actually has a mate in 2 after knight 5 takes h6, discovered check, and after rook g6, the only move, we would have queen takes g6, checkmate. However, Rain goes for a slightly different checkmate. He takes with the knight, knight 7 takes h6. This is still checkmate in a couple moves. We have rook takes g1 and rook takes g1, and there are no stalemate tricks since black has too many pawns. But we have now h4 and rook g7 check, king h8, and queen to e8. Rain Wilson gets the checkmate. And yeah, Rain Wilson gets this checkmate. Wow. Are you serious, dude?